you can sometimes find yourself living in these patterns, like almost like when you're in an abusive relationship with somebody. And it's so funny because when he's not okay, he can lose control of himself and hurt me, right? And he might bite me or grab at me and bruise me, in a meltdown or an attack. And I find myself thinking, like, he doesn't mean to. He loses control of himself. He loves me and he will come and apologize after he's lost control. You're trying to make sense of all of these confusing things happening emotionally while physically going through the responses of somebody who is trying to defend themselves. And it's all very difficult.
Hey all, this is Editing Wanda. So I just want to take a minute because this is only the second vlog that I filmed, and I didn't do a great job of setting up what I was going to talk about or doing intros or things like that to these vlogs. And this video is a little weird, and I guess I'm a little bit emotional because we're going into spring break and I'm stressed out about it. And so I'm talking a little bit more intensely, I think, about my fears about my son and his behaviors, how he can be aggressive, how he can sometimes be violent. And so I do want to give a disclaimer for anybody who might have trauma, or it might bring up issues for anyone who doesn't want to hear about violent behavior or aggression or things like that, who might also struggle with trauma. I talked just a little bit myself about what it brings up for me, and you might feel a little bit of that intensity or emotion in my voice when I talk about it, in this particular vlog and in some of the other vlogs. And so I do want to say that up front in case that makes you uncomfortable and you don't want to watch this. So I didn't give that disclaimer when I filmed this video, and I wanted to make sure as I was editing it to bring that up in case you want to turn it off right now. So I will be talking about that today and in the next couple of videos a little bit. So, and just for context, I am talking about his behavior in order to bring up some of the developmental theory and strategies and things that are supposed to help me as a parent to deal with that in his autism, his severe autism, and his behaviors. How do I co-regulate with him as he exhibits some of these more severe behaviors? How do I deal with it myself as a parent, as a person? How do I work through it? So, all right, I'll see you over there. Bye.
Hey y'all, it's Wendy. Um, if you're new here, I am a developmental psychologist and mother to a teen boy with severe autism. And I've been doing videos on parenting an autistic teen boy, trying to figure out, I guess, the best way to be a good mom to him. And in being a good parent, how to, stay happy and keep myself centered, you know, to stay steady. So we're coming up on spring break, and one of the things that I've talked about a few times with my son is that we're managing some aggression, and had a meeting with his team at school today, IEP meeting, and talked a little bit about, I guess one of the things I talked about in the last video was just, in his IEP, one of his social emotional skills was really keeping an eye on his aggression, and they were wondering if that's something that they should continue to support, because he's doing kind of pretty well right now. And I was like, yeah, yeah. I mean, he's doing really well, and I'm so proud of him. But like I said in the video last time, it comes in cycles, and he's doing so well. And part of the reason he's doing so well is because we're keeping an eye on it, because we're trying to keep steady in our environment and kind of doing things to maintain a tone that supports him and helps him to feel safe and regulated, but also we watch ourselves and help ourselves to stay safe and regulated. And I'm so glad to know that they're keeping an eye on it at school, because I think even if they're not actively thinking about how they can stay calm and regulated, if they're keeping an eye on things, then they're probably watching themselves. They're probably making sure that they're helping to maintain a tone that keeps him feeling okay. So anyway, I was like, yeah, please don't take that off the IEP, and keep it a goal to support him. And I think even in the back of their minds, that helps them to make sure that they're staying safe and regulated in their own minds. But anyway, as he comes into spring break, he'll be off about 10, 11 days, because they have a few days post the week that they're off. And part of me feels a little bit nervous, because I don't know. I just don't want to do anything that sets him off, or I don't know. I'm trying to think of things to do with him so that he feels happy and taken care of, but I don't want to put pressure on myself to make everything about him, so that he's always at the center of everything. And not that that's a bad thing, because of course I want him to feel loved and supported, but I also don't want to go overboard so that he's the only thing in my life ever and I never think about anything else, because that's also not healthy, right? And I can't make things in my life so much about him that, for instance, I'm afraid of doing something wrong because I don't want to set him off. That's not healthy. That is another type of abusive relationship in a way. And as a parent to a son who's so volatile at times, like right now he's fine and he's steady because we're all steady. Um, but you can sometimes find yourself living in these patterns, like almost like when you're in an abusive relationship with somebody. And it's so funny because when he's not okay, he can lose control of himself and hurt me, right? And he might bite me or grab at me and bruise me, in a meltdown or an attack. And I find myself thinking, like, he doesn't mean to. He loses control of himself. He loves me, and he will come and apologize after he's lost control. And if he makes me cry and he sees me cry, oh my God, he feels so bad. And you can see the look on his face, like he can't believe that he just hurt me. And he will hug me sometimes and he will say the words, "I'm sorry, mommy," with this heartbreak and this sweetness. And you have this conflict inside because you're hurt and you're sad, and physically your body is full of the stress hormones and the defensive reflexes, and all of the stuff in your physiological system has just been released, like you've been attacked. But emotionally, you're seeing this shell of a person who feels really bad, who is lost control of themselves and is a little boy crying and sad, and you're trying to make sense of all of these confusing things happening emotionally while physically going through the responses of somebody who is trying to defend themselves. And it's all very difficult. There's this dissonance between what your body wants to do and what your mind is seeing and feeling. And there are a lot of the same patterns of an abusive relationship. And it's not something you want to experience if you can avoid it. And I hate being in that situation. And I hate saying those weird things out loud. And I hate feeling like I'm in that place. And I often see those patterns repeated. And I've been around women in abusive relationships. I won't talk too much about my personal history with family and friends, but I've heard those words before. He doesn't mean to do it. He loves me. He can't control himself. And I hear myself say those things about my son. And I don't want to be there. I don't want to see him in that way. I don't want to feel those things, especially as he grows into a young man. I don't want to see him like that. I don't want to repeat those images of a person that I love so much, who really can't control himself, who really isn't that kind of man. Anyway, so when we're coming into a situation where we're going to be alone together for a good long time, and I have memories of being in that place with him just a few months ago, and I don't want to find ourselves in that situation again. And I think about what can we do together? How do I plan to avoid something like that so that I don't have to repeat those emotional patterns, and I don't have to see him in that way, and we don't have to go there together. And then I get all this anxiety. It's so irrational. It's so silly. How do I avoid it? We're not even there. There's no reason to think that we're going to have an episode. And yet I still feel all of that stuff happening physiologically, all the anxiety come up, all of the emotional feelings. That it's crazy and unfair. So I start planning, what kind of activities. And the truth is, I don't even know. He's a 14-year-old kid. He's going to be 15 in a couple weeks. And I am 40-something-year-old woman. I don't know what he likes to do. And he can't tell me because he can't talk. And he has autism. I don't know how that interacts with the fact that he's a 14-year-old boy. I don't know what to do with him. Where do I take him? What do we do together? How do I not set him off? Because, even if he wasn't autistic, I could set off a 15-year-old boy pretty easily just by existing around him right now. And it's so complex. It's such a complicated life. It shouldn't be. And I guess for some people, it could be pretty simple if you don't think about it, if you don't try to process it, and you don't try to reflect on it, and you just let it happen. You just let him have the meltdown. You just do your thing and go through the motions without letting things bubble up and without processing all the things as they come. Maybe it's simple. I don't know. Maybe it can be like that, and I don't have to let it be the messy emotional thing that it is for me. Maybe that's my problem, that I look at it too much. Maybe I just have to let it be what it is. I don't know. It would be easier that way. It doesn't seem to be. I mean, I'm around other autistic families and I don't see them struggling any less. But for me, life isn't just about my son's autism. It's about all the stuff that came before it, all the stuff that comes with it, all the pieces of who I am with and without the autism. It all has a context, and it's a big, complicated picture. And the kind of parent that I can be to him is a result of all those things. And here I am trying to figure out something simple, like what are we going to do for spring break, and how do we just have a good time together without a meltdown, or at least without a meltdown that leads to a violent episode. And it should be a kind of simple question, maybe, but the violence that can be a part of this week is not simple. To say, what are we going to do this week? How are we going to spend our time? And I can't tell you how many times I've been asked that question this week. Somebody says, are you guys going to go on vacation? Are you going to go visit family? What are you guys going to do? And I shy away from the question because it should be a fun answer, like we're going to Disneyland or we're going to the beach, or there should be some fun and excitement in the response. But there isn't. And in fact, when I think about how I'm scared of being alone with my son this week, it's really unfair to him, because it isn't just about his autism. It is hard enough to know that he has the potential for violence inside him. That on its own is its own kind of demon to wrestle. But I'm a person with my own lived experience already. And when he brings his violence into relationship with me, as his parent, it multiplies what I've already been through in my life. And I know it's unfair to him that I carry something else into that experience also. There's already more for me to have to deal with. There are already my own scars. There's already my own personal history there. But that's what it means to have to parent from my own point of view when I come into a situation like this where I am an autism parent. That's what it means for all of us to be autism parents. We don't come in blank slates. We don't come in just ready to wrestle the new demands of having a disabled child or a severely autistic child or even a moderately autistic child. We didn't just come in blank slates. We came in with our own biases, our own pasts, our own weights to carry already, and they impact what we bring into the situation and how we are ready to show up for our children. And that matters, you know. And I talked about co-regulation last week and how I can stay steady for him, but also how I can recover when a situation does get messy. So I'm still wrestling with that. And, you know, maybe this week I'll have to practice that. If we become unsteady together throughout the next 10, 12 days, that it's just me and him, what can I put into my toolkit to make sure that I can become steady again for him? Because I'm already on edge, you know, I'm already nervous and anxious and afraid of him a little bit. And it's just me, you know, I've been through a tough couple of weeks and I'm unsteady, and that makes me bring anxiety into the situation. So can I be more ready for him from a nice calm place? I have a couple of days this weekend, you know, dad will be here before he goes back to work on Monday, and I'm alone with my son, and I can maybe take a couple of days this weekend to just recalibrate so that I'm in a better place. And I should do that, you know, to make sure that I'm a little better off when the week starts and I can show up for him from a warm, calm, soothing place. Let's see how it goes. You know, I'll keep you updated and make sure that my mental health is a little better off. Thanks for listening.